So technically, on paper, we work for two different companies.
We
Meg.
do.
But we are still in the Viacom offices, and it's as long as we are in this building and there are opportunities to talk about Assassin's Creed,
You're always
I'm
gonna
going to
bu-
sit you down and we are going to talk about them.
Yep.
How do you top a pirate ship? How do you top a giant pirate ship at Comic-Con? You make a bunch of nerds trip and fall on their face.
Yeah.
In a trial, which you did.
I
which You
did.
said knocked you out.
We were all doing, I mean, if anyone watched Ninja Warrior, whether on G4 or the New American, that's essentially what they created. They created this awesome course that on the outside you're like, yeah, I can do that. And then you get halfway through and you're just like,
It was the heat
oh,
too.
man.
I mean,
Well, yeah, it was really hot. There was no breeze. But it was just, it was a lot of fun. The people there were really just awesome spirited, and people were doing it in costume. You know, I saw a Deadpool do it, a Robin do it, you know, people wearing Assassin's Creed outfits. Like, it didn't matter if they were wearing, they only made you, they made you take off
wings and weapons.
and, you know, and you didn't do it with a backpack on or anything, like, you know, take stuff out of your pockets. But it was like rope climb and then, you know, back and forth pad foot, and then you had to like swing around the kind of like in the games with the lamps, you hold on the lamp and it swings around a corner. When I did it, I went with such gusto
Of course.
that I swung all the way around and like didn't let go, and I missed the platform and almost kicked the dude that was there to like rotate it back. And then it was, they had cannonballs swinging, and you had to cross this balance beam, but they were like, you can't use your hands, so you were like ducking and weaving and like
So if
getting
you did, would they just say, okay, you're done, you can't?
You're like, oh, you're dead, you know, whatever.
It was like the leap of faith, like the reward if you actually got through it. You got to do that at the end, or could you wait in line just for that?
I don't know if you could wait in line just for that. It looked like you could, but either way, you had to sign. They had a form you signed before you even got on. I'm like, look, if you get hurt, like, you're acknowledging it's on you.
Did anybody get messed up? I didn't hear anything.
I know that there was less than one hand amount of people who did get injured on the course, mostly on the first day, because towards the end of the course, there's one of those big barrels, like a big log that spins.
Yeah.
They let it spin on the first day, and if you watch videos, a lot of people actually just like would take 2 steps and fall right off and onto. There's padding. There was padding everywhere.
Yeah. I did notice, in later days they weren't spinning it. I was like, that lady just walked across that thing.
Yeah, it was pretty locked when I went and did it, but I didn't know they had locked it, so I got up and I was like, this is the one thing that I might hurt, you know, I might fall from. And then I took 1 step and it didn't even like move, and I was like, oh, and then I just went across. Totally fine, you know.
But hey, you know, I mean, you can get a Game of Thrones tattoo. They were actually giving out, they were like tattooing people with like the symbol of the hand. They were like literally like not fake tattoos, like real permanent tattoos. You know, you can get swag, you could get costume pieces. But if you have a nice fat bruise on your forehead, it's like, where'd you get that? Comic-Con.
I got it Comic-Con. No,
You know?
It was a lot of fun. The leap of faith was just so. 25 feet is higher than you think.
Yeah.
And
leaping into midair is not what you expect until you do it.
no, and I was not I'm fully honest about the fact that I was not very assassin about it. I looked at it and I was like, I can do this. I'm gonna jump out, and I'm just, because you couldn't do flips, you couldn't, you know, do twists, you couldn't do, you just jumped out and just sort of laid back and did like trust fall sort of situation. And I was like, all right, I got this. Like, I've been building up to it all day, and I kind of expected myself to at least go out a little bit before I started, you know, gravity took over. No, like the minute my foot left, I just started plummeting straight down. Like, I guess I just didn't jump up enough, so I just kind of did one of these as opposed to what I was hoping, which was this. That's not physics works. So.
I'm sure it was very graceful, though. I'm upset we don't have video of it.
Supposedly there is video somewhere, but I didn't realize it until 30 minutes or so later that was being recorded.
So there actually is a game that all of this stuff was brought there for.
Yes.
Unity, which was not playable on the floor, but did have a panel, which I did not attend, but you did.
Naturally.
So let's get to the good stuff.
The good stuff is they had Alex, they had Dan, and I don't want to butcher their last names because they're very, you know, French, and French-Canadian, to be clear. But Dan is the voice of Arno. And Alex is obviously the creative director of the game, and they just sat there and talked about Unity and gave a lot of the spiel we already knew from E3, you know, clarified the co-op situation that sort of came up at E3, how basically they explained to the whole audience of like, okay, well, you know, Watch Dogs is a game also from Ubisoft, and they created this great mechanic where when you drop in, drop out, you're, you know, was it Aiden Pierce? Mm-hmm. You're Aiden Pierce, your friends are Aiden Pierce, but you just changed the exterior. And then they clarified that in Unity, it's all about the gear you wear. So, like, you know, you might have a different cowl and a belt and a sword, and I may have an axe and a thing and a what. And so we'll jump into a co-op game together, and I'll be Arno and you'll be Arno, but we'll just have different faces to each other. But we'll look at each other and like, oh my God, that hoodie is awesome.
Yeah.
What mission did you do to get that? And so that's why the gear had to be all the same and had to be generic.
And I definitely felt that way about Assassin's Creed games when I would get gear and then I'd get some sword and it's like, this sword's even cooler. And I'm like, I like my sword. I like this style better.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of times some of like the quote unquote coolest stuff in the Assassin's game wasn't necessarily what I rolled with most of the time.
Because it wasn't necessarily the best.
Because I just liked this style. You know,
Yeah.
I just thought it looked cool.
This is going to be completely geared towards style. So they talked about that. They had, for some reason, they commissioned to Tony Moore and Rob Zombie a digital animated short about this time period, the French Revolution. Showed the short.
Rob Zombie in the French Revolution. I mean, come on.
Well,
Peanut
and
butter
they talked to him
chocolate
about
right
it. They showed up and I don't watch The Walking Dead, but they made some Walking Dead reference joke that I went over my head. But you know, Matt Blair, like he got it and he started laughing. So forgive me for not knowing. I don't watch that, but they showed this video. It looked really cool, very stylistic. Like I recognized it as Walking Dead. You know, I got it, and that's online already. So they showed that. They had they reshowed the E3 demo with just Arno. And they had Dan, who's the voice actor for Arno, like talking through it. So that was very fun. It was like a new sort of commentary situation. And then they wrapped it out with a very amazing trailer for fans, which should hopefully be out by the time this came out, where we see a new character in the game. And that new character may or may not be a love interest. That character may or may not be on the same side we're on, you know? So there's, you know, if that trailer's out, definitely go check it out, see it for yourself. It's if you could have heard the audio in the room of the panel of everyone being really excited, and then it cuts to the extra bit, because it's like there's a trailer, and then it cuts to the title, and everyone starts clapping, but then it comes out of the title and shows more, silence the whole room, followed by, what? What is that? Who is this? What's going on? You know, like, so that was a nice payoff at the end of everything.
If you want to make a really cool announcement about your game, trailers are a really good way to do that. I don't know if we've ever talked about that.
I don't know.
Before,
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if I've ever expressed
well,
that
and there's
before.
something about Assassin's Creed trailers that always seem to use the right music, and I think the same holds true. You know, they go back to their standard. They use Wicked for this new trailer, and like 2 bars in, and I'm like, nice. Like I already knew. And they
should just put them in the game at this
just
point.
put them in the game. They should. And they played the E3 trailer, and it had, you know, chills through the whole audience. Like, you know, we were all singing along. We all knew the trailer at some point. But there's just something about seeing on a bigger screen that you're just like, oh.
Do you still have fears or concerns? Did you have any before the show, and did they assuage any of them? Like,
I didn't really have any fears. I didn't have any concerns. Oh, they did confirm, actually, one thing in the panel. They did confirm that Arno is not related to anyone we've met before.
Okay.
They confirmed, they didn't confirm, but they said we should not expect any cameos from any assassins we already knew before, or people we knew before. This is just a whole new start. Doesn't mean they won't reference, obviously, Altair, Ezio, previous Master Assassins for the sake of storytelling, but they're not going to show up, which I kind of already knew because of timeline-wise, but to say that outright, like, no, you're not going to see these people again. It's curious to see what that then means for the future, which they always, or the present day, because they always kind of keep that until very last before the game launches to tell us what we're expecting. That's the only thing I'm kind of concerned about at this point, is that's always been the half of the series that's been lacking. So we'll see what it means. Depends whether or not we're still Abstergo employees or if we're somewhere else, or
Right.
where, you know, why are we in the Animus? So
Right.
that's the only fear I have at this point, but I think from everything else I learned, everything else that I saw, they are pulling all the right story elements that led to the strong parts of all the previous games. And I don't think they're pulling it together as like, okay, here's all the best ingredients of all my favorite desserts, and we're just going to mish it all together, and it won't be good. I think they're being very smart about what they're picking in terms of, well, everyone seemed to really like this part, everyone seemed to like that part. You know, people in the panel directly compared Arno to Ezio. And the guy was like, no, I'm my own guy. If Ezio and I existed in the same, or Ezio and Arno existed in the same timeline, we'd totally be bros. Like, and everyone's like, fair play. I like that idea. all the fan fiction's already started. Like, that's already, so I think he'll fit nicely, and that's why I don't really have any concern about the French Revolution part of Unity.
I know the answer to this question, but I have to say it because we have to close things up.
Okay.
You're excited?
Of course I'm excited.
Okay, good.